Oh, no, I got it answered. We're good. Yes. Oh, yeah, we should. Hey, Beatrice? Okay, where's Steve?
I just have to say hello, and I'd love you to take your spot. I'm Cheryl Bailey. Nice to meet you. We're going to start, so thank you all.
Sure, yeah. I think we're set.
I will. Yes. You have a pen? Yes, absolutely. All right, so we need one. There you are. Thank you. You're welcome.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Welcome to the 2025 Mayoral Candidate Forum organized by the League of Women Voters St. Paul. My name is Max Sanders, and I'm a member of the League. If you're interested in learning more about joining the League of Women Voters, please stop by our table after the forum. We are pleased to highlight St. Paul Public Schools by holding tonight's forum in Johnson High School's auditorium. We asked Aerospace Science Instructor and Master Sergeant Wendy Getz for her ROT students' help greeting members of the audience tonight, which was a pleasure. We appreciate the St. Paul Neighborhood Network for filming this forum and live streaming it to YouTube. The League also extends our gratitude to tonight's forum co-sponsors, the Como Park Community Council, Dayton's Bluff Community Council, Greater East Side Community Council, St. Anthony Park Community Council, Southeast Community Organization, and the Union Park District Council. These district councils have helped to heavily promote attendance at this event with their members and volunteers here tonight. Quick orientation for those of you here to this building. Restrooms and water fountains are out the back door. I'll start closing remarks at 8:15, so we end the forum promptly at 8:30. You are welcome to mingle with the candidates at the conclusion of the forum. The League of Women Voters St. Paul conducts candidate forums to provide the public with an opportunity to hear candidates discuss the issues that are important to our community. The League is a nonpartisan organization. We do not support or oppose any political party or candidate. The views expressed in each forum are those of the candidates, not those of the League of Women Voters. Local leagues and the League of Minnesota post complete, unedited recordings of forums. Editing is authorized only for official media reporting. Excerpts or edited clips of candidate forums may not be used for partisan or political purposes, and we ask that those in the audience refrain from taking photos or videos tonight. All 5 candidates were given the rules of the forum, including no campaign, issue, or promotional materials, signs, or political clothing in the studio. We intend for this space to be neutral for the audience as well as for the candidates. Each agreed to the following format. Candidates will have 2 minutes each for opening and closing statements, and 1 minute to respond to each question. If a candidate wants a chance at a rebuttal, they may ask for it and will be given 30 seconds. Candidates are allowed a maximum of 3 rebuttals. When the candidates are making opening and closing statements, timers will lift their signs to notify the speaker when they have 30 and 15 seconds remaining, and when they must stop speaking. When candidates are asking questions, the timers will lift their signs to signify that they have 15 seconds left and when they must stop speaking. We've collected online questions for the candidates. If you're here in person and you'd like to ask a question, simply raise your hand, and then one of our volunteers will bring you a piece of paper to write down your question. They will then be sorted by our question facilitators to ensure similar questions are grouped together. Remember, your question must be directed to all the candidates. It cannot be of a personal nature, and it should be relevant to the position of mayor. No hostile or inappropriate questions will be considered. Since the election on November 4th is in the ranked choice format, please consider all the candidates and their answers. You'll have the chance to vote for your first choice, but also make a second and third choice on your ballot. I'd urge the live audience to be as quiet as possible so we can all hear, and hold your applause until the end to allow as much time as possible for the candidates to speak. I'm done with all the instructions. Now it's time to make sure your phones are off so we can start. I am pleased to introduce our candidates for St. Paul Mayor. Starting furthest to my left, Mayor and candidate Melvin Carter, candidate Yan Chen, candidate Adam Dullinger, Representative and candidate Kali Her, and candidate Mike Hilborn. Welcome to you all. Now you can applaud. Now you can applaud. So we're first going to begin with our opening statement. As a reminder, you have 2 minutes. We're going to start with the candidate furthest to my left. Candidate Carter, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Thank you to you all for being here, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this. And thank you to the other candidates who have signed their name up and who are willing to put your name forward as leaders in our community. That's really critical, and I think it's a sign of healthy discourse in our community. My name is Melvin Carter, and I've served as mayor of this city for the past 8 years. I'm very proud of the progress that we've made through some of the most challenging times in our city's history. We know the things that we've been through, and we know that we're coming out stronger with momentum. We know that homicides are down on pace for a 10-year low in our city. We know that we've doubled our pace to rebuild our city's streets and critical infrastructure. And we know that we have over $1 billion in development projects underway in our community. We also know we have much more work to do on fentanyl, on our downtown, on building as much housing as we can as fast as possible. And that's why I'm running to continue moving this work forward. Folks ask me all the time how we've been able to do so much in our city so quickly, and I always make sure that they know it's because I don't have to work alone. Through whether it's every member of my cabinet being hired through a community-based hiring process, every budget that we've brought forward to the city council being brought through a community-based budget process, or every major policy that we've brought forward having fingerprints of hundreds of St. Paul residents on it. Our goal is for us to do this work together. We know that it's a critical time. We have critical work to do that our children are looking for us to get done, whether that's building as much housing as possible, combating gun violence in the ways that we have in St. Paul and in the ways that we're continuing to push the envelope on, or whether that's just making sure that we're taking care of our climate, taking care of our planet, taking care of our river, so that we can pass all of that on to our children in excellent shape. I'm proud of the work that we've done. It's not enough, and that's why I'm running for re-election. I'm Melvin Carter, and I'm asking you for your vote to be your first choice on the ballot this November. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. Candidate Chen.
Let me begin by thanking St. Paul League of Women Voters and the Sponsor District Council for hosting this event. My name is Yan Chen. You may notice my accent, that I wasn't born in St. Paul. But that doesn't mean I haven't come to love this community. You don't have to be born here to be a great mayor. George Ledman, one of our most respected mayors, was born in New York. I was born in Shanghai, and when I learned about Wei-Ming Lu's work revitalizing Lower Town, I feel a deep connection. Sharing the same heritage, I hope to carry on his vision to revitalizing St. Paul. As a political outsider in 2022, I believe the best way to understand the city governance was study its blueprint, the city budget. When I began to analyzing budget dating back to 2008, what I discovered was deeply worrisome. The trajectory showed property tax will keep rising unless government acting differently. We have the manpower and expertise. It's government's responsibility to safeguard the residents' financial future. Failing to do so is irresponsible. What aggravated me further was how the city spent the COVID fund. We had no plan to build for future. Instead, in 2023, leadership raised the sales tax. I'm not a career politician. I'm a biophysicist. For 30 years, I have solved complex problems by mastering details without losing sight of the big picture. For St. Paul, the big picture is creating opportunity and social mobility for all. I know how to untangle tough challenges, and I'm ready to serve. If you trust me with your vote, I will work hard, apply my skills, and put St. Paul back on track.
Thank you. Candidate Dellinger.
Hi, my name is Adam Dellinger. I'm 29 years old. I went to the University of Minnesota for mechanical engineering, and now I'm a state licensed professional engineer. I work making pumps for fire trucks and other equipment related to that. I think that engineering is a very broad role in that you're kind of managing projects through a bunch of different departments, and I think that actually gives me a lot of experience, kind of similar to the mayor, where you have to work with a bunch of different people, a bunch of different departments, people who come from different backgrounds. And I decided to run. I was the last person to put in my name for this because I'm a urbanist at heart. I really care about the design of cities. I spend a lot of time in my free time learning about city design, exploring different cities, and seeing how they do things right, how they do things wrong. I grew up around St. Cloud, and you know, at the time, living there, it didn't seem like that big of a problem, you know, the way the city was designed. But I moved here, and I realized how different things can cause huge problems for people. And when you live in a fully car-dependent situation, you sometimes don't see the problems that are down there. And now I bike everywhere I go. I biked here. I bike to work every day, year-round. And I don't think that the rest of the people on the stage are willing to put in the infrastructure for bikes. I think from what I've heard so far, it seems like they want to think of biking as only recreation and not as transportation. And we have a real issue with with the connections that we have. Sorry, I'm not a politician. I don't like talking about myself, but yeah, I thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder for everyone, just make sure you hold your microphone close to your mouth so everyone can hear you. Candidate Her.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I was telling Adam that he kind of looks a little bit like Jake Gyllenhaal. Is it just from my perspective here, or does he kind of look like him? Thank you for League of Women Voters for holding the forum tonight, and our 5 district councils who are hosting us. I truly appreciate the opportunity to come here and share my perspective and my vision for our city with all of you. Now, a little bit about myself. So I am a current state representative. I've been a representative for 7 years. I represent the neighborhoods of Lexham, Merriam Park, McGroveland, Crocus Hill, Summit Hill, and a number of other really great neighborhoods, but I love my district, 64A. We call ourselves the Mighty 64. You know, what the positions that I've held at the state legislature, leadership roles that I've held in the short time I've been there, I've been the majority whip, I've been the chair of pensions. I am currently the House DFL chair of commerce, and I'm also the deputy speaker pro temp, and this is a role that I've been designated a leadership role despite having an even split between the GOP and the DFL, so it's a great honor of mine that Speaker Dameth would appoint me to such an important position. But you know, these are titles, these are our roles, this is not who we are as people. I am somebody who came to this country as a refugee. I came when I was 3 years old. My family was able to break the cycle of poverty in 1 generation. I was able to go to college and get my undergraduate in finance, get my MBA, and work in the private sector for 15 years. I did investments in finance work, and I had the privilege then as being someone who decided to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. And I was with my children from when my youngest was from kindergarten until she was in, is that 30 seconds? Holy moly. Okay, until she went to middle school. And so I bring with me a world of experience into this, and I want to make sure that our city works for everyone who comes after me. And so, You know, and what I'm hearing all too often is that people are seeing that the city is not working for them. So it is important for us to make sure that we have abundant and affordable housing, we have a thriving economy, and we have safe communities. And people are telling us that is not what we have in front of us now. And so there's a lot of work to be done. I'm ready to roll up my sleeve and do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Hilborn.
Hello, and can everybody hear me? Okay, I hear it now. Thank you to the League of Women's Voters. Thanks, Max, for being the moderator. My name is Mike Hilborn. Give you a little history on kind of my resume here. I've lived in St. Paul since my junior year in college, so 42 years. I raised my 3 sons in Highland Park, adult sons 38, 36, and 34. I started my business out of my garage, kind of the classic story, and actually it was 30 years ago like 2 weeks ago or a month ago. So been in St. Paul, I live in St. Paul, I love St. Paul, and I want to see St. Paul do well. One of the things, the reasons, or tell you a little bit more about my company is we're a second chance employer. So we hire men and women, mostly men, that have either been incarcerated or are in recovery. I would say about 60-65% of my employees fall into that category. Anyway, we start everybody at $25 an hour. Everybody gets health and dental insurance if they want it. Everybody gets 401k. We're a power washing company, spring, summer, fall, snow plowing in the wintertime. Anyway, the reason I'm running primarily is because last November, my landlord, who's awesome, came to me and he said, Mike, we got to talk. Your rent is going up a lot, and we need to talk now, so if you decide to leave, you have a chance to find a place, and I have a chance to find somebody to replace you. So he came in a couple weeks later, so probably early December, and he brought in a bunch of tax statements, and he showed how much taxes have gone up in the last several years. And so my rent was going up $5,000 a month, from $17,000 to $22,000 a month for my business. And I thought about it, so like, you know what, that's just, I'm not going, I'm not leaving. I mean, I love it, and we've got a lot invested into St. Paul. But I'm not leaving, but not everybody, not every business can afford that. And it's like from 22 to 20, or 20 to 22, over 500 businesses left St. Paul, and that's going to impact all of us. So, thank you.
Thank you. And for all the candidates, you're welcome to sit or stand. Just don't move around, so that way we can make sure that you're still on YouTube. You got to be on YouTube. Mike, we're going to start with you for this first question. We've been getting a lot of questions about property tax. We're going to start with you for this first one. Approximately 18% of property in St. Paul is tax exempt. What ideas do you have to address this revenue gap?
Yeah, so, yeah, the problem is that like, 1 in 5 commercial properties now are off the tax rolls. And then that gets spread out to everybody in the community. And so businesses pay about 3-point-something% of the value of the business for property taxes, where a homeowner pays a little over 1%. So every time a business leaves the tax base, a lot of that weight, as you can see, goes to other businesses, but it goes to you, and that's why our property taxes have gone up 15 to 30%. We have to stop that. We have to turn it around. We got to get property taxes lower so that businesses stay and that people can afford to live in St. Paul.
Thank you. Adam, same question.
I thought we were going in order. Okay. Yeah, for lowering property taxes, first of all, the city council is who decides whether or not we lower property taxes, not the mayor. While we get to propose a budget, they get to choose what they want to do. I think the way that you reduce the budget, is by being a little more efficient with the way we do our projects. I think that sometimes we spend a little too much money when we don't need to. Pedro Park, I just was over there the other day. It's a wonderful park. It's absolutely gorgeous. It does not need to cost $7 million to do that. And for something that costs that much, to not eminent domain the parking lot directly next to it so you can have a full park across the entire thing is just stupid. I mean, we need to do better things. And also not spending $200 million of city funding on a new stadium. That also would affect our property taxes pretty substantially. And I also want to make one last note. Tax increment financing districts take 8% of our property taxes, and we don't get any of that back.
Thank you. Melvin?
Yes, thank you. This is an important question, and this invokes the fact that we've lived through an era of historic inflation, and it invokes the fact that half of our budget, that our property taxes fund, over half of it goes straight to emergency services. So it's really easy for us to stand here and say we should do it simpler. Cutting significantly would mean cutting police, would mean cutting fire, would mean cutting some of the things that hold up our property values and make sure that our city is a desirable place to live. And so it's easy to say those things when you don't have to put the money into a spreadsheet, when you don't have to put numbers into a spreadsheet. I do. Our work is pretty simple. We work to, one, diversify our revenue streams, same as a business would. That's one of the reasons why we pass a sales tax. People who come in and go to those places that are tax exempt do pay sales taxes. Those places do pay into the franchise fee and things like that. So I'm out of time, but there's a whole lot of other stuff that we're doing to be able to do that work as well.
Thank you. Yen?
Could you repeat the question? I thought that the question was about the nonprofit, right? It
Yeah.
wasn't about property tax per se. Am I right?
So the question is approximately 18% of property in St. Paul is tax exempt. What ideas do you have to address this revenue gap?
It's a very important portion of our property tax revenue. In 2017, we did have a report how to collecting this revenue from the nonprofit. And during the transition period, the time this report getting lost, we never really go into this report to see where nonprofit we can collecting money. So what I will do differently? What I would do right now, I think everybody is in the budget crunch. I don't expect we can collect money. However, I think one very important portion is service. There is a so-called service in lieu of tax. I think we should tap into service. We can ask healthcare institution, education institution, church, faith-based organization, can they help us to build up our program without costing city any money?
Thank you. Kali?
Thank you for the question. So truthfully, I mean, this is true, 18% of our property is tax exempt, but Minneapolis has the same issues, and yet Minneapolis has a way and order in which they operate that is different than ours. They are easier city for us to do business in. And so asking somebody to participate, I've done that. I hope that that happens. I've talked to St. Thomas, some of the universities in my district, and asked them how will they be a good partner? How will they step up to help us address the issues of the wear and tear in our infrastructure, especially when they're building new stadiums, when we're increasing the students in our district. And so it is important for us to ask how people are going to show up to be good partners. But I will also say that that can't be the only lever that we pull, because the truth is that that might be a really difficult lever to pull. What we have to do is make our city more welcoming to increasing commerce and business and allowing people to actually do business well in our city. The number one thing I hear from businesses, whether it is small businesses, BIPOC-owned businesses, developers, is that we are the hardest city to do business in. You cannot increase your revenues, you cannot increase your taxes, you cannot increase how to redistribute property taxes if you are not increasing that base. It is critical for us to do.
Thank you. Kali, we're going to stick with you for this next question. In that same vein, what concrete ideas do you have to support businesses and increase the city's tax base?
So I've heard from businesses over and over again, I've mentioned this before, is they have told us St. Paul is the hardest city to do business in. It is not because we have stricter standards or we are making sure that we are complying with things that other cities don't. It is because we do business poorly. We don't respond to people's phone calls. We do not meet with individuals who are in trouble, who are needing help. We are letting businesses close and not having conversations with them, and then we are surprised when there's blight in our city. We have to actually facilitate the process. Someone told me they went to Roseville instead of in St. Paul when they were determining where they were putting their business. They said Roseville rolled out the red carpet for us. St. Paul made it impossible for us. They lost our permits, they cashed our checks, they were not available to respond to phone calls. We have to create a system in which facilitates people how to navigate our systems to be able to open up businesses here, and then we have to proactively go out and recruit businesses to come into our city, which is not happening.
Thank you. Mike?
So St. Paul is a beautiful city. I mean, I love it. That's why I stay here. And it has everything that a business wants. It's 15, 20 minutes away from the airport. It has a working river. It has its own municipal airport. We've got light rail. You've got 35E going north and south, and you've got 94 going east and west. It's everywhere a business wants to be, and that's why I moved there, and that's why I want to stay there. But you have to make it affordable. You cannot have my rent. Not only is it going up $5,000 a month, but it's also going up 4% every year for the next 5 years. It's 20%. And like I say, Brian is my landlord, and he's awesome. It's like, well, Brian, at least you can bring the 4% down to 3 or 2. He goes, no, Mike, I can't. We have to make St. Paul affordable. We have to bring down taxes one way or another. We can't be the most expensive place in Minnesota to run a business, because right now, St. Paul is the most expensive place to run a business. And I hope we ask more questions about that, because I have more to say.
Thank you. Yen?
Well, I agree with Representative Her and Mike, so I'm not going to repeat their answer. However, here I want to bring in another angle. That is, I think our city has to be the small business incubator. One thing what I see is I don't think, at least I don't foresee our city can attract a big cooperation. And in fact, we might even don't want to. But I think our city is in position to really become a small business incubator. We have downtown. We have the empty office space. If we do it right, if we utilize our half cent, here is half cent sales tax in a proper manner, I think we can boost a lot of small business from art to theater to many programs.
Thank you. Melvin?
Thank you very much. This is something I'm really passionate about and excited about. Good news for everybody who wants us to make it easier to open a business or develop in our city. Literally this week marks the culmination of a years-long process to launch what we call Pauli. It's our new online system so that you can schedule inspections, so that you can do online payments, so that you can do online applications, so that you can log on and check the status of your application. We can even now do inspections by cell phone. That's going to fundamentally transform those processes. We've been working on that for years, and we're excited to kind of bring it forward. That's really important. We have to make the most of the current projects. I just mentioned we have over $1 billion in development projects currently underway in Highland Park, in downtown, in the Midway, on the east side. We have to continue to push and make those the most of those projects. And we have to tell our story. We have to continue talking to folks on the coast and around the country to make sure they understand the big opportunities that exist in our city. That's the work that we're doing, and it's producing benefits for us.
Thank you. Adam?
I agree that we need to make it easier to do business and kind of just get out of the way, but I don't agree that it's the job of the city to go and try and make connections with all these big national companies and try and bring people in. We just got to talk to them more and get more investment and work harder. But the reality is, if you want businesses to come here, you just need to get the people to want to live here. I have tons of friends who have tried to get to move here for the 6 years that I've lived here. No one wants to live here. They either want a big city and go to Minneapolis, or they want to live in the suburbs because it's cheap housing. So if you want to actually make businesses thrive, you need to get people here. I was just on a trip and I talked to a guy and he said, the Chamber of Commerce came to me and they said, what can we do to help you? And he said, I need more people. I need people to work my jobs. No one's out here. He was in the middle of Ohio or something. And, it's just, that's what we got to do. We got to build a city that is for people first, and the businesses will come. Businesses know how to work. I'm the only one up here who's not a business person, and I understand that.
Adam, we're going to stick with you for this next question. It concerns Cub Foods. So Cub Foods in Payne Phelan's closed. What steps will you take as mayor to help ensure vital grocery stores don't close and create deepening food deserts?
I've mentioned before, municipal grocery stores. If no one else is going to put a grocery store around, like, the city has the opportunity to come in and make a difference there. Obviously, it'd be great if grocery stores would stay, but they're private businesses. We don't have control over whether or not they want to stay here. And part about the Cub thing too, it's right next to I-94. That whole corridor is just a car sewer, and it's not a pleasant place to be around. It'd be awesome if we had a more development over there to make it a little more calm and have more people out and about, because eyes on the street is the best way to combat crime. But we don't have any development. It's just a bunch of empty parking lots. And part of that's on city council to change zoning and stuff and make it a little easier for that. But there's not a whole lot you can do other than, when no one else is going to do it, start a municipal grocery store and, fill that gap. Because if no one else is going to do that, that's the job of the city, is to fill the gaps in services.
Thank you. Melvin?
Thank you. It's accurate that it's challenging because they have their own business models. I know Cub has closed a couple of different stores, so I think there's something maybe going on corporately there that we don't necessarily have control of. We do have control of the big opportunity, for example, in United Village to do major development there in a way that helps to continue to push create upward pressure on development there. I think we have challenges, particularly across the street there at the CVS, where we have to do something around that building, and it's coming forward to the City Council very soon for a recommendation, and so I'm looking forward to continuing to move that forward. And we have to address some of the quality of life issues. We, like every other city on the planet, have really grappled with opioids and fentanyl. That has to be a fundamental kind of priority of ours. It has to be urgent to take care of that, to make sure that we're moving folks along, to make sure that we're taking good care of folks and not allowing folks to deal in those communities. That we just announced $1 million intervention to do exactly that. We will not rebuild that momentum downtown or along University Avenue without fundamentally addressing opioids. It's the largest drug crisis of our lifetime, so we won't get the solution in the past, and we won't get it from another city. We have to build it the same as we did on gun violence.
Thank you. Kali?
So when the Cub closed, I did dig into a little bit why they closed. And what I learned was that when Cub was struggling, they reached out to City Hall, and City Hall was not responsive. You cannot solve problems if you are not answering your phone and you are not meeting with people. They were told that the response to them was, well, you should address it and don't let people walk out of your stores with your merchandise. And they were thinking, like, we're not here to police the people that puts their employees in danger, and yet that was the response from City Hall to them. And so we have to do a better job of enforcing to ensure that there is public safety and that people feel safe. It doesn't matter if we build and we continue to, we have buildings now that have no retail space underneath it across from United Village. You can keep building, but if you do not enforce public safety, if you do not ensure that your neighborhoods are safe and it is thriving, no one is going to be able to keep a business open in that area. And so we have to do a better job of being responsive and working with them.
Candidate Carter has asked for a rebuttal. Melvin, you have 30 seconds.
Thank you. With all due respect, that's fundamentally untrue. We met with the Cub leadership and had a great conversation with them and built a plan. Part of what we did say is, they said we have this many instances of shoplifting, and we said, well, how many times did you call 911? And they said we didn't, and we said, well, we can't come if you don't call 911. So we did ask them to call 911 when someone breaks a law. That's something we ask a lot of folks to do so that we can partner together. In the end, when they were closing other stores, it was actually Cub that stopped responding to us. It was the other way around.
Kali's asked for a rebuttal. Go ahead.
I will have to respectfully disagree, because I did speak with individuals involved in this, and they were saying that that City Hall hasn't been responsive, and they're not the only ones. Many, many, many partners, whether they're developers or small businesses or nonprofit partners or residents, have all stated the number one issue they're having is the responsiveness of City Hall. So when you wait until someone is in dire need, the ability to find a solution becomes much harder. And that they had been reaching out, that they had been asking for partnership, and that was not happening. So we can just be respectfully disagreeing up here, and that we're getting different versions of stories from different people.
Yeah, it's not factual, but that's okay.
It is factual.
Okay. All right. Do we want to use a second rebuttal? Okay. We're going to go to Mike. Mike, I'm going to repeat the question for you. I have concerns about Cub Foods and Payne failing being closed. What steps will you take as mayor to help ensure vital grocery stores don't close and create deepening food deserts?
So, Cub Foods, of course, and then Lund's, downtown St. Paul, closed as well. And Grand Old Day Parade, my fiance and I went into a Walgreens to pick up some clipboards. And we asked them, hey, how's the crime thing down here? And they're saying, you know what? People, there's this one particular individual that walks in, grabs toilet paper, walks out. He has a warrant for his arrest, and they won't do anything about it. It's like you have to hold your criminals accountable. You just have to. If it's okay to go in, grab a bunch of stuff, and walk out the door, people are going to do that. So that has to stop. And that's why, Lund's couldn't make any money, Cub couldn't make any money, and then, and I'm going to go back to, it's so expensive to run a business in St. Paul that, especially grocery store margins are so thin. So we have to be able to nip the crime so that they can actually sell stuff and not lose so much going out the door, and then long term, we got to address taxes.
Yen?
I go shopping. I went shopping in Cub Foods. I'm the regular customer. And so definitely made an impact on me. But in reality, the writing is on the wall, right? You already can tell that store is struggling. And the difference between Cup Foods and the Target is every time I go to Target, there's a police car parked in front. When I go to Cup Foods, I don't see that. And yes, they have their own security. Now, can Cup Food probably has a better policy? Maybe. But it is need a strong coordination between the city and the cooperation. You need to have a strong partnership. I don't think I have been seeing our city has been doing that. It can be coordinated a lot better because you can see the writing on the wall.
Yen, we're going to stick with you for the next question. The struggle between the mayor's office and the city council about how to handle the FCC truck facility in the West 7th neighborhood raises concerns about the ability of the council and the mayor's office to work together effectively. How would you cultivate dialogue and working relationships with the city council? How would you ensure that the public's concerns are being heard at the council?
This one is, I hope I can finish in 1 minute. There's really multiple facets of this issue. First of all, our mayor decided to sign the second trash contract without talking to the city council. And his claim was this is the continuation of the first trash contract. That's not right, because the trash contract is completely different. Now you work with a single company. Second of all, I think here really what I see the responsibility of a mayoral office about coordination. In my administration, everything will be coordinated. The strength of being a mayor is able to bring out the data. Data is so important. You have 3,000 employees able to bring data up front to the city council. What I see is actually city council start to respond very well to data. So if they have data, we can work very well together as a team.
Thank you. Kali?
I think that this is part of the problem as to why people don't want to invest in St. Paul. In addition to a city hall that is not responsive, the second thing I hear most of is that the political instability of our city. That means that our city council and our mayor's office does not work well together. I want to affirm that what Yan was saying about the mayor's office making decisions without consulting with City Hall. I worked in the mayor's office. I was his policy director for almost his first term. The attitude in the mayor's office is always that we're the mayor's office. We don't have to consult with anyone. When we were passing $15 minimum wage, that was the attitude that was heard over and over again. We have to work better with our city council members. When I wanted to go and talk to them about each of the policies that I was working on to pass for Mayor Carter, I was told, why do you need to do that? We're not going to change this policy, and this is what we do. And I do not operate that way. I've already made commitments to the city council members that if I am the mayor, I will sit down with them within my first month and talk to them about their priorities, what they care about. Because if they are successful as their city council member, I will be successful because that's my city. And that I am somebody who is willing to listen to others, even if we do not agree, that we will work together on how to collaboratively move forward, even when we don't see eye to eye.
Thank you. Mike? Okay, just a reminder for the audience, please hold your applause, because the more we... Okay. The more we applaud, the less questions I can ask, so let's just let them keep answering. Mike, your turn.
Well, first of all, you know what? I don't like it when businesses or when the government tries to run businesses or to try to take over things. So I wish that was still what it used to be, where it's private businesses competing in the marketplace to try to provide the best service possible. I think that's always the way to go. Working, yeah, you got to work with your people. You know, I run my company, but my people do all the work. I mean, literally all of it. And you have to be able to work with your people. There has to be mutual respect on both sides. And I think then a lot of good things happen.
Adam?
I believe that the mayor's office and the city council are separate parts of government, but that doesn't mean I don't want to still have conversations with them. I would love to work with them on pretty much any issue and help, you know, because it's the job of the mayor to execute the laws of the city, and the city council makes those laws. So there's got to be that back and forth there. I want to talk about trash. We absolutely should have a municipal trash service. Private contractors is not the way. It's a public service. It should be offered to everyone through the government. That's basically how it's working now. It's just we have this weird middleman in there. We can make it happen. Or, you know, doing other things with trash. You could have community trash, where instead of everyone has one bin on their own, you have like a place where everyone brings their trash. That works very well in a lot of other countries, every other place they've done it. And that cuts down on your cost because you don't have to have a truck going all around. The idea of having a bunch of different trash companies all over the place is just stupid.
Melvin?
Well, when this new city council got elected, I know a lot of people were concerned that the mayor and the council would always agree on everything, and then we don't agree on everything, and folks are concerned that we don't agree on everything. I don't think the mayor and the city council have to. I think it's good to have a vociferous debate, and we worked together to make sure that we avoided an interruption in trash service, which would have been the worst thing to be able to happen. So I do think that that is an example of government working as it should, as is our AAA credit rating, as is the fact that we just came through a major cyber attack in a way that actually preserved frontline services. But for those of us who are really concerned that we need a mayor who can work well with our city council, I fully agree. It's one of the reasons why I'm very proud to have the public endorsement of a majority of the city council members who have said they'd love to continue working with me for the next 3 years.
Melvin, we're going to stick with you for this next question. It's around public safety. How do you define public safety? Do you have an expansive definition that includes social safety net components, or do you have a narrower definition focused mainly on law enforcement?
So we've built this community first public safety framework. We did that with a 2-year task force. We built our minimum wage policy with like a 1-year task force. We built our college savings account with a 1-year task force. We're really proud of the way that we bring community members along. It's basically saying when we talk about safety for a community, it's fundamentally different than when we talk about safety for our families and people that we love. When we talk about safety for a community, we're only talking about police and prisons and stuff. When we talk about public safety for my children, I think about seatbelts, and I think about outlet covers and all the ways in which I can transform an environment to keep something dangerous from ever having to happen in the first place. That's the model that we've used over the past couple of years to create double-digit decreases in every category of violent crime. The police chief just reported this to the city, this data to the city council this morning, and we're on pace for a 10-year low in homicides in our city as a result of our community first public safety approach.
Mike?
Well, public safety includes police and fire, so those are both critical resources, right? Okay, just want to make sure. But we got to have it so that people feel safe coming down to St. Paul. That's another, we're talking about that. We got to get people in. We got to get people downtown St. Paul to visit that. And right now, people don't. The crime rate, the violent crime rate, is getting better. Great. That one's always bothers me. It's like, okay, if you're losing money and you're losing money slower, that's not good. So the violent crime rate is 3 times what it is in outstate Minnesota, and we have to hold people accountable. When somebody breaks a window, and then they don't get to go back out the next day if they're going to do it all over again. So we've got to get it so that people understand that when you break the law, something uncomfortable and bad is going to happen to you.
Kali?
Could you repeat the question for me?
How do you define public safety? Do you have an expansive definition that includes social safety net components, or do you have a narrower definition focused mainly on law enforcement?
Yeah, I often hear our mayor talk about public safety as violent crime being down, and truthfully, it is much broader than violent crime. I mean, I brought $10 million working with Ramsey County. The city was not at the table, and we brought that money in to deal with the carjacking. That $10 million I brought in through the legislature. What I will say is that when we are then ignoring the cries of our fire department, who I've met with when I was at the legislature with pensions, but in addition to that, what they were telling me is that as of the end of July, they went on more runs than they did all of last year. We are the only city in the state of Minnesota where all of our EMS services are delivered from our fire department, and yet they can't get the resources that they need. All of the deferred maintenance on their vehicles and on their buildings, there's no plan to deal with that deferred maintenance, the hundreds of millions of dollars. We cannot keep our public safe. When they are relying on emergency services as their main health care, when they are relying on this service as the way for them to get the care that they need, and they do not have the resources, they are struggling with the exact same thing that our hospitals are struggling with, is that reimbursement rates do not meet the cost, which means the city is bearing the cost of this. So if we are only looking at public safety as violent crime, we are missing the ability to actually address the true issues within our city.
Adam?
Public safety is a big issue for me. I agree with that policing needs to be a little better. I was on a jury trial for a murder, and I witnessed firsthand about how when we don't investigate shootings as murders and actually put the effort forward, that people decide to take the matters into their own hands. And that was horrible to deal with and to go through, but I immediately knew that the issue was that we weren't doing enough. And now, 2 years after that event happened, they started doing that, actually investigating shootings a little more thoroughly, which is great. I love that, but it's 2 years to do that. But what I also really wanted to talk about is public safety on our roads. The same number of people die on the roads as get murdered every year. Cars are very dangerous, and we do not have a safe bicycle infrastructure. So our kids people tell their kids not to go biking around because it's unsafe to. And so they can't get around. And there's a lot more I want to talk about that, but I'm out of time.
Ian?
To me, public safety is about a community trust. When a society doesn't have a community trust, it's very hard to build a healthy community. And so one of the things what I see our society lacking is how to rehabilitating people. That's super important. Because if people, however they become the way they became, we need to figure out a way how to rehabilitating them. And in fact, I think the jail system, prison system, any nonprofit organization, they can be great resource. But we shouldn't treat as just punishment, but much more a rehabilitation, provide job opportunity, life management skill, and hopefully they can reintegrating back into the society.
Ian, we're going to stick with you for this next question. Do you believe that reducing gun violence is a public safety priority for the city? What specific ideas do you propose to address the issue?
Through my campaign, I met many people talk about the gun violence. And it is heart-wrenching to hear people to say for 20, 30 years they have been fighting for this issue because maybe their son getting murdered. And even this morning, somebody was tearing at me to saying what their experience. Such a simple thing. How can our government even cannot passing this simple thing? To me, it's a demonstration of our government is really cannot show competence, right? Because I know it is irrelevant, but it is relevant when government become weak, we allow this kind of misinformation coming in. If we have a very strong, if our government willing to be transparent, willing to really educating the voters about every issue, if we have a strong government, I think gun violence really should be dealt with. My hope is, yeah.
Thank you. Adam?
Kind of like what I was saying before, that investigating shootings as gun violence is very important, and kind of getting in there and actually talking to all the people involved and making people feel like they are heard and that they, that the city actually cares about solving their problems. Because, in that situation, it was this guy just didn't, he didn't feel like the city was doing anything, and they weren't. And, I applaud the changes we've made, and it seems like it's doing a pretty good job. But yeah, it's kind of a community first. You got to get in there and actually talk to these people, because it's like the cycle of violence is where a lot of this stuff happens, is where one person gets murdered, the other person wants revenge, next guy wants revenge, next guy wants revenge. It's just, it's a long cycle, and you have to break that, and you have to do a lot of work to get in there and actually talk to these people, and make them feel heard, make them feel like you're doing something, bring them to the police station, tell them this is all the information we have, I don't know, but yeah.
Melvin?
Gun violence is one of the most critical things that we have to fight. It's our top priority of our police department, which is why we did that work that you're talking about. We've always been proud that we've had in St. Paul over 90% solve rate for homicides in our city, but at the same time, we've had just a couple of years ago, like a 20-some% solve rate for non-fatal shootings. I asked the police chief to help us figure out a strategy to solve that, and that's when we created our non-fatal shooting unit 2 years ago to say any incident of gun violence in our city, we're gonna respond as though it's a a homicide, we in just a matter of a few years took our solve rate from like just over 20% to over 70%, and that's been critical in driving down gun violence in our city. It's not enough though. We deal with the downstream impacts of inaction on the state and federal law levels. So I've proposed 4 policies to ban assault rifles, to ban binary triggers, to ban guns in rec centers and libraries, and ensure that all guns have a serial number. We're going to get that passed before the end of this year.
Rebuttal? Go ahead, Adam.
I want to rebut on that because I fully agree that we should get that stuff passed. But we're talking about the mayor here, and at the end of the day, the mayor just signs that legislation. I agree that it's good to promote it, but you know, the state has to pass it, then the city council has to pass it, and then we get to sign it. So I agree it's great. I want to make sure that we're clear about what the mayor can actually do.
Thank you. I almost used my minute to rebut myself on that. The 4 things those policies have, the 2 things those 4 policies have in common: 1, everybody I know thinks of the bare minimum of what we should do. 2, the state law says there's more than we can do, that we can't even do that much. That's why we're doing it. That's why St. Paul has recruited Minneapolis and Stillwater and a number of other cities to do this same thing, to force that conversation at the state level. This is St. Paul being the capital city and guiding our statewide conversation on gun violence for the whole state.
Khalid, we're going to go next to you. I'll repeat the question. Do you believe that reducing gun violence is a public safety priority for the city? What specific ideas do you propose to address the issue?
So I think it is absolutely something the city should address. And what I will say is that I am the chief author of the Reporting Lost and Stolen Firearm. I've been the chief author of that for 2 bienniums. In a special session, I will likely be the one to carry one of those bills that the mayor talked about. What I will say to you is that it is of complete importance to me. I've addressed this issue for the last 4 years. I want to tell you how many times now that we're talking about how the city is going to be forcing these changes to happen. The 4 years I carried that bill, do you know how many times the city, as part of their legislative agenda, came to talk to me as the chief author of these bills, working on 4 bills at the state legislature? 0 times. We do not wait until children are being killed in their schools. We do not wait until people are getting gunned down in their neighborhoods and in their homes to say, now there is an urgency to do it now. This has always been an urgency, and that I will work with the state legislature because I understand what is at hand here, and I understood it long before the cities decided that they were going to make it an urgent issue now.
Mike?
So 2% of the criminal population does 90% of the crimes. So I was talking to Sheriff Fletcher, and he goes, Mike, what we got to do is we know who the bad guys are. And those are the guys we got to target and we got to go after first. So that's a focus. And knowing who your criminals are and knowing where they're going to go, then that's what you do there. And then the other part about it is we got to get more cops on the street. So right now, I understand we're 60 police officers short of where we want to be. And then the overtime on the amount of police officers we have to pay to do the work to make up for that difference, which doesn't make it up, is extremely expensive. So more cops on the street, and then find you know who the people are, take them off the street.
We're going to stick with you, Mike, for the next question. Food price increases coupled with federal SNAP benefit reductions have hit lower income residents of St. Paul particularly hard. Do you believe the city should do more to address food availability and stability, and if so, how?
I don't know. Everything comes back to me, affordability, and which means you got to come back to taxes, and you have to make it so the businesses can make money. Yeah, I don't have an answer for that.
Okay, Adam?
Yeah, it's a tough problem to solve. I mean, there's not really a whole lot that the mayor can do to solve that problem, I'm going to be honest. I mean, there's ways that the city council could move to guarantee food benefits to people, but that costs money, and if we can bring down costs other ways, like through housing affordability, transportation affordability. I save thousands of dollars a year because I bike to work every day, purely because I don't have to maintain a car as much. That's one way. There's like a million different things we can do to make things a little more affordable in this city. And it sucks to have to deal with, people taking our benefits away, but I don't know what the mayor can do. If anyone else knows, I'd love to hear it.
Yen?
One fun thing about running for campaign is I learned a lot. I learned about how many great organizations is out there. And so that's really what I start to see is coordination. I probably keep repeating the same word. Because if our mayoral office can have one-stop shop, allow people easily to know all the information, where to go, how to do things, because that's really the power of a mayoral office. How you leverage all the little small organizations, and St. Paul has so many of them. A lot of non-profit profit organizations, but we need to have a central coordinating system to allow this kind of information effectively getting utilized.
Melvin?
This is another area where St. Paul is providing national leadership. There are people in our community who feel money working against them, and there are people in our community who get a chance to help make their money work for them. To expand that second group, we started an Office of Financial Empowerment. That's the office that runs our college savings accounts program that starts every child born in our city with $50 in a college savings account. That's the office that's using American Rescue Plan funds to purchase $1 million to purchase and eliminate over $100 million in medical debt that our residents owe. That's the office that piloted our guaranteed income. We were the first city in the country to use public funds to pilot a guaranteed income. And one of the things that you said, Adam, about bike lanes is really important. That's one of the reasons I'm proud that we've added over 50 miles of new bike lanes in this city since I've become mayor, because you ought to be able to live in the city without the expense of car ownership. Yes, there's a lot that a city can do to help make life more affordable, and the mayors across the country who are very interested in this body of work are looking to St. Paul for the playbook.
Khalid?
I'm so sorry. Can you repeat the question for me again?
Sure can. Food price increases coupled with federal SNAP benefit reductions have hit lower income residents of St. Paul particularly hard. Do you believe the city should do more to address food availability and stability, and if so, how?
So I think that this is an issue that we're having good relationships with your other electeds at different levels of government is really important, which oftentimes our city has had a difficult time doing. The state actually does the allocating of funds to address this work. I carried a bonding bill for Keystone in order to expand their facility. I worked with Tony Santa and their foundation, especially during the pandemic when our kiddos, their only meal they were getting was through the school district, and when they couldn't get that, how are we going to get that food over to them? We really have to work as all levels of government together to solve these problems. This is not something that a lever that the city itself can pull. And I want to also be really clear that, like, when we talk about some of these great pilot things that we've said at the city, we overstepped our bounds. Doesn't mean the programs aren't great. They're absolutely necessary. Debt forgiveness. That's why I heard Keith Ellison's bill at the state legislature on debt forgiveness, because it is the state's responsibility to do this. When we use our city resources to deploy on programs that we should not be at the state, we cannot use those city resources for what we are responsible for in running our nuts and bolts of our city. And I want to just put a plug in for myself. That college savings account, I set that up. I was the one who did the research and the work on that. The $2 million to seed that, I fought for that, and I got that money. And so let us remember that the work that the city has done, it did not do alone, and it took everybody to do that. This is not a brainchild of one person. This took collaboration, and the only way we're going to continue to solve the problems of the issues that are in front of us, whether it's food insecurity, whether it is increasing rents, whether it is having wages that are livable wages, we have to do it together, and we have to have good partnerships, and the city does not have that.
Khalid, we're going to stick with you for the next question. City Council's vote to exempt recent construction from the 3% cap on rent increases may lead to major unaffordable rent hikes. At the same time, some local developers have blamed the rent control policy adopted in 2022 for their reluctance to build in St. Paul. As mayor, how would you balance the city's need for lower rent units while still promoting new development?
So I know that there's a lot of discussion around rent control, and that has been passed by the voters. Whether we agree with it or not, that is what is here. I will say that when rent control was first proposed, I had concerns. As somebody who has carried tenant protection bills, who has been a huge housing advocate, I knew that the way that rent control was structured was going to be the most restrictive and actually hurt construction. I think that some of the changes that have been made will help new construction, but what I'm hearing, especially when I'm meeting with small BIPOC landlords, people who only have a few units, family-owned, who only have a couple of units, that they're saying that what we have done has left them out. And now, instead of repairing buildings, one person specifically said to me they had a roof that they needed to fix. They're now deciding whether they're going to just sell that unit instead of having it available for rental. We actually need to do more work around this, and we need to do it using real data of what works. We cannot continue to just use anecdotally what we think might be the best for our community because it has hurt construction in our city.
Yen?
Well, rent control definitely has hurt our city, right? If we look at the data, since we passing the rent control, our rent increase in city St. Paul raising faster than Minneapolis, which doesn't have rent control. So this is the fact. That is coming from the data. However, right now, with the rent control in place, what can we do about that? Renters feel they need some protection. And so I don't think we need to do, and we need definitely to work to how to generate more affordable rental units. The whole housing issue has really, our city has been really, has destroyed we put a lot of money, we destroy our tax base, yet we didn't really boost our rent affordability. So on my website, I only can refer to my website. I discuss about the housing issue, and we need to look at this issue in much more depth before we enact another regulation or ordinance.
Mike?
So yeah, rent control, that's been tried several times, many times all over the country, and it's always been an absolute disaster. So bad idea. Just, it needs to go away, scrap it, get it done. And then let the free market do its thing. And then the other thing is that we got to keep adding all these regulations onto these builders that just makes everything more and more expensive. So right now, every house that's built is 20 to 25%, as high as 30% sometimes, is the regulations that go into building the house. In North Dakota, prices are $15,000 to $30,000 less per house in North Dakota because they don't have the same regulations as Minnesota. And I'm a small business owner. Just please, let me do my part. I'll do the work part, but just please don't make my life harder and keep adding things on that just keeps adding more and more expense to everything you do. So rent control gone, and then we got to take a look at these regulations and start peeling things back.
Adam?
Rent control is up to the city council. I was against the exemptions because all the studies that I've read said that the exemptions were what caused a lot of the negative effects because you create two different classes of housing. But the thing about all of this, and the reason why everyone fought so hard for those exemptions, is that you can't build anymore. You absolutely can make money building a rental property, even in rent control. You get to choose what you set your rent to when you build it. Obviously, there's financing issues, and that's the real issue, is that the national banks don't want to finance it, and so then that's why you get less development there. But half of our rentals, or half of our properties in the city are already rentals. We don't need more rentals. We need more houses that people can actually own, more condos, more co-ops, and maybe the city can help get people together to build co-ops so that there's like that collective financing. But there's just a lot more we can do, and I don't think we need to be incentivizing rentals more. We need to be incentivizing places that people can own.
Melvin?
Yes, I was proud to pass that exclusion, and we brought it to the city council, and that's a perfect example of the city council and the mayor's office working together to solve a difficult challenge. That has resolved what I would suggest probably over 95% of the concerns that we have heard around the rent stabilization policy that our voters passed. It's also important for us to work with those small landlords. This is why we had to create some of those exemptions so that if they have to fix a roof or something like that, they can access a larger thing. But listen, the reason we have a housing crisis is because we have more people than units. We have to build. We have to build as much housing as we can, as fast as we can. We have to do everything that we can to do that, which is why we're doing that. One of the things, and listen, I think we do need more opportunities for ownership, and I do think we need more opportunities for rental, because there are a lot of folks who want to rent in our community, and that's a good thing because it means St. Paul is still a desirable place to be. This has to be one of our most highest priority, most urgent goals, building as much housing as we can, as fast as humanly possible.
Melvin, we're going to stick with you for this next question. Do you believe that the St. Paul police should cooperate with ICE in immigration enforcement actions? Why or why not?
There are a few police departments on the planet that are better than our police department at holding people accountable when they do something bad. The city of St. Paul, our police department, will never, ever, ever criminalize someone's identity or where they're from or what their nationality is. That's important because when my neighbor sees smoke in my house, I need them to feel comfortable calling 911. When my neighbor feels like it feels unsafe, we all need every single resident in our community to be able to call 911. There is not one single employee who works for the city of St. Paul who has any need to know anybody's immigration status. There's not one single employee who's authorized to ask or enforce immigration status, and that will continue, I'm confident, probably as long as any one of us was mayor, certainly as long as I'm mayor.
Adam?
I agree. 100%, yeah. That we can't be working with the feds doing the crap they're doing. So yeah, I agree with the mayor.
Mike?
Bummer, man. I'm going to just disagree with you guys here. So what's happening right now across the country is that we're locking up violent aliens, and then we're letting them go because we won't call ICE. So then what has to happen is the federal ICE agents have to go into communities to find these individuals, and then when they're trying to find this individual, they're going to find other people in that group that don't have a criminal record and might be great workers, great everything, but they're illegal aliens, and then they're apprehended, and then they go too. So I think if we have a criminal, in our jails, and we know the guy's illegal, and we know ICE wants them, let's get rid of the people that are causing the damage, the murder, the theft, and let's just not have collateral damage when where we're catching other people when we're only trying to catch these guys.
Yen?
I think I agree with Mayor Carter. And overall, yes, I think our city should treat the people whoever is a criminal, we deal with it. We definitely should treat the criminal as a criminal. However, we shouldn't discriminating because their identity. And so I think that's yes, I wouldn't cooperating with ICE for just immigration status.
Khalid?
So this issue is really personal to me. My community is being targeted. I came to this country as a refugee, and my community is getting ripped apart. It is not enough for a mayor to sit up here and say that non-compliance is enough. That is not enough. There are over almost 100 organizations working together and working on this issue. They're teaching people how to be constitutional observers. We need to empower our citizens to be able to do that. We need to be able to have real-time alert to tell people where ICE is and what neighborhood they're in. And no, they are not hardened criminals that are being rounded up. I have people in my community who are citizens who are getting rounded up. With the Supreme Court's decision on saying that ICE can target based on the way somebody looks or their accent, that means that our communities are even in greater danger right now. And I did sit down and meet with ICE, and I said, well, are you done with the hardened criminals and the national security threat? Because it looks like you're just targeting people now. They had no answers for me. Our city needs to do better with our police force in saying that we will not just not comply. People's constitutional rights are being violated. We have to then deploy our police to say, we will protect our citizens when this happens. It is not enough to say we are not working with ICE. We need to do more. These citizens pay taxes. These citizens are part of our community. These citizens are an important part of the fabric of who we are. We need to do more.
Mike, we're gonna start with you for this next question. What is your plan for Midway, specifically the Snelling and University neighborhood, especially the vacant CVS?
I have a lot of thoughts around this. I was actually just...
Sorry. Mike first. Apologize. I can't vary from the grid. It gets all messed up.
Sorry about that.
Okay, can you say it again?
Yeah, sure can. What is your plan for Midway, specifically the Snelling and University neighborhood, especially the vacant CVS?
Well, again, we have to police it. We have to get people from sleeping on the sidewalks. We need to have it so that people can go in and out of businesses and not get harassed. I hear that more than you'd think. I was talking to somebody that said that they would love to have an office in St. Paul, but when they went down to look at it, they had to either step over or around or was confronted by somebody. And it's like, is this where I want my customers coming in? So I think a lot of what we've got going on is we really just have to get our policing in order. And we got to get the number of police that are allocated or are part of our Constitution in St. Paul or whatever, and get it up to full staff, and then not treat cops like they're the bad guys. That was a disaster right from the beginning. They're there to help us. They're there to keep us all safe, and that's what we got to do. That's how we're going to bring this city back. Adam?
The city council should eminent domain the CVS, tear it down, build something better. That's what you do when you get rid of blight. I don't know why we don't use eminent domain more. It's like an easy solution, so I don't know.
Melvin?
It's time to either fix up or tear down that CVS. We do have lots of folks interested in that site and other sites as well. We're already in the ground at right there at Snelling University, building up that United Village area. That's going to be a critical centerpiece for our community. I love that loon there. You show me a great city, I'll show you great public art. So to have that loon there is iconic. It's going to be a gateway for our community, for everybody. And then this, and sorry, I keep saying fentanyl because addressing fentanyl is so key to so many of the things. That was a challenge. That's a challenge today that didn't really exist in the form that it does now back when I first got elected mayor. So we have to continue to build new tools where that's concerned. That $1 million intervention on fentanyl and those quality of life issues, that we already see those officers out on the street in Midway. We already see those officers out on the street along University Avenue and in our downtown. They're making a difference already. When we do all those things combined, I think there's actually a really bright future ahead for the Midway area.
Yen?
In order to revitalize the Midway area, we have to deal with the crime issue. And our city, I don't think we need more police. Our police doing a good job. However, we really need to have coordination with state, with county, with Met Council, Met Transit. We have to do things differently. Because rehabilitation, without the rehabilitation, we always just going through a vicious cycle, either kicking people out or they're coming back. That's not going to work. That's cost ineffective in the long run. We have been doing it for the past 30 years, and we're still doing it. I think it's time to stop this and really develop a new system, really able to integrating people back into the normal society.
Kali?
Thank you for the question. So I think that we're asking the wrong question here, right? We're asking people to solve a problem, and I think the question should be asked here is, who up here knows who owns that CVS building? Not CVS. I know who owns it. It took me about 5 minutes to find out who owns that building. And I asked if a communication has ever been sent to that CVS and having conversation, and they said citations have been sent. Who's ever reached out to have a conversation with the people in that CVS? This CVS is just a microcosm of what is happening all over our city. This is not unique to that corner. I counted the number of open storefronts down University Avenue as I drove down today. I went down Snelling Avenue. I went down Grand Avenue. This is not a unique situation. We have neglected taking care of our cities and ensuring that people can open up businesses in our city. This is not a solution that somebody can just say, knock it down. This belongs to a private business. They own that. And the reason why they keep standing there and why they still are just sitting vacant there is because CVS is still paying their rent. Why would somebody then do something different if somebody is paying their rent and they're getting revenues from that? We have to address why it is that this is happening. This is happening all over our city. There needs to be a larger plan. And when I was asked what I would do, I would say it's not my decision. It's the decision of the people in this neighborhood of what they want to see happen there. It is the decision of the people in the Spruce Tree building, in United Village, and a number of other places that they can put together a plan, because they have thoughts and ideas already. We are not, I'm so sorry, we do not have to reinvent the wheel. People already have thoughts around it.
Thank you. All right, so this is going to be our last question before we move to closing statements, and it's going to be about where we are now, which is the East Side. Yen, we're going to start with you. Tonight's forum is taking place on the East Side. Those of us, this is from the audience, those of us on the East Side often feel forgotten. How will you address and attend to the unique needs of the East Side?
East Side, it's really interesting community. I have to admit that. They are really low-key. They have their unique, they don't want people bother them. But on the other hand, I think we also want to see development in a right way. We don't want to repeat a lot of mistakes, which is not engaged in the community and do the things, repeating a lot of mistakes. So I think the best thing is really develop around the Golden Line. How can we think about using Golden Line transit, start to develop in a very respectful way to East Side people and allow still development, convenience shop, but keep the East Side character.
Kali?
Can you repeat the question for me? I'm sorry.
Yep. Tonight's forum is taking place on the east side. Those of us on the east side often feel forgotten. How will you address and attend to the unique needs of the east side?
The east side feels forgotten because it is always forgotten. And that we have people sitting here talking about bike lanes and saying that we just want bike lanes for like recreation. I have been fighting for bike lanes for people who ride their bikes from their low-income housing units over to their gas station of where they work, or for the kiddos to be able to get to their parks and libraries. When you look at the map of where the bike trails are, there are few on the east side. And so when we talk about who we're building infrastructure for, not for people on the east side, when we're talking about investments into our cities, and look, have you driven down Payne Avenue? Have you driven down Arcade? We are not building a city that is inclusive of everyone. And so we need to be intentional. We need to leverage our district councils, who are actually the closest to the city. When they're coming to talk to me about Mountain Iron and the plant and the pollution that it has caused there, and the city's lack of willingness to work with them, we need to do better, which means we have to start by listening. And we are not doing a good job of that now, and we can leverage the district councils who are already in community, who are already working with everyone, who already has some solutions they want to have at the table. And so I want to make sure that Eastside doesn't get forgotten by listening to them.
Mike?
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, you have to talk to people. And then, I guess I'd be looking at resources too. Where's the money going? Is everybody kind of getting their share, so to speak? So yeah, there's a couple restaurants, again, Jammarie and I visited over here, and we love coming over here. And the Music Cafe, I hope that's part of the east side. We love going down there too. But making sure that people know that we care, know that they're being talked with and listened to, and then just making sure the resources are being fairly spent.
Adam?
Yeah, I think just talking to people and hearing what they have to say about what they want. I want to push back on the bike lane thing. First of all, Arcade, bad road for biking. Clearly that needs to change. I think that's a state road. I'm not sure if I remember that right, but the east side here actually I think has pretty good bike infrastructure for the rest of the city too. I mean, you got the whole Grand Round goes right through here. I bike through here every day. Going along Phelan there too. Like there is decent bike stuff, but we can do way better. And part of the problem is that there are these state roads that go through this area that we don't actually get to have a real say in how they get developed. Obviously, I'd push them to do better, but you got to work within the city streets that we own and we control and make those better. Because if the state's not going to work, we can't just have this goal to make them change their mind. We have to, make do with the constraints that we're in.
Want to use a rebuttal?
Yeah, I would like to have a rebuttal because I think that is disrespectful to the east side. I actually bought my first home on the east side here. My community lives predominantly here on the east side. No, bike lanes are not good over here. If you look at the map of the grid where I live, Summit Avenue, Summit Hill, tons of bike lanes. Lots of really great infrastructure out there. I'm going to tell you there is maybe a third of the bike lanes on the east side here. And so when we talk about then who we're building bike lanes for, we should actually be saying where's the parity in that, because there is no parity right now. So if we say talk about doing better, then the bike community needs to show up and say, how do we help get the east side where they need to go and not just biking through the east side? Because just take a look at that map. I encourage you to do that tonight.
Summit Avenue sucks as a bike trail. That whole area also sucks. It all sucks.
That's where you're not investing in. We're investing on Summit Avenue. We're investing.
All right.
You said Aid Mill is useless because it doesn't have a connection. That
Okay,
connection
all
needs
right.
to be built.
You built it for people like me, not for them.
Kali, we're gonna move on. We're gonna move on. Melvin, you are up. Would you like me to repeat the question?
No, I remember it. I pledge that every day in my next term as mayor, just like I have right now, I will live on the east side. I'm an east sider. I live on the east side. I'm in the east side every single day. I bike the east side. I run the east side, so I get a chance to see the east side, and I run the entire east side up to the northern boundary of the city and back. And so I get a chance to see it. We've opened a new rec center on the east side. We're investing right now, building new roads and building new playgrounds on the east side, and continue to invest in those ways. And specifically, we have to maximize the opportunity that we have for development at the Heights. We very rarely get the opportunity to design and build a whole community, 100+ acres from the ground up. We have that twice right now in our community. Making the most of those opportunities so that we're building our community for the next generation is absolutely critical. It's the work that we're doing already, and it's the work that we'll continue to do.
Thank you. We've used our time for questions. I know there's always more. We've used our time for questions. We're going to now move to closing statements. As a reminder, every candidate will have 2 minutes for closing statements. The timers will notify you when you have 30 seconds left, 15, and then when you must stop talking. For closing statements, we're going to go in the opposite order, which means, Mike, you are up first.
All right, well, thank you. Great job. Thank you, League of Women Voters. Thank you for having us. Thank you for all that came out tonight and you know, took the time and spent your time to listen to what we have to say. I appreciate that. You know, I'm a business owner, and that's the perspective that I see. Of course, I'm a homeowner too. But the three things that I think are just the most important is taxes, and then it's crime, and then it's homelessness. So we are the highest property taxes in the state. We're the highest sales tax in the state. Does everybody know that? It's 9.88% in St. Paul. Minneapolis is 9.03. And here's what's kind of interesting, and most people don't probably know this, is that there's something called use tax. So when you go buy something in Roseville, you're going to pay the Roseville sales tax. When I, as a business owner, go to Roseville, I have to pay the Roseville sales tax, and then I have to calculate what it would have been had I bought it in St. Paul. And so every single thing I buy for my business, which is, I don't know, a couple $1 million a year or whatever, I have to make sure I'm paying that amount, okay? And that's the law, so that's what you do. And if you don't, they're going to come find you and you will get hit. So every single business in St. Paul has to pay the highest sales tax on everything they do to operate their business. And again, if you're the most expensive business or most expensive place to run a business or to live, you're not going to get the people in that you want. And then number two, crime. We have got to get a hold of this crime thing. We've got to fully staff our police department. And then we got to get cops on the street, and we got to stop having all this stuff where people are sleeping in the street or sidewalks and then breaking windows and lighting fires, and then businesses and restaurants I talk to would love to stay open till, you know, later than 10. They'd love to stay open as late as they could too, but they can't because of the problems that it's going to occur. So there's that. How many seconds are we at, you guys? 15. Okay, then I got to be quick. Okay, and then the third thing is, I don't think compassion is people sleeping on the street. I don't think that is at all. We have to stop this homelessness thing, and I've got a plan for that, but we've run out of time.
Thank you, Mike. Kali?
Thank you for the opportunity to share our perspective today here. Thank you for all of those who took out your time to come here. Because until probably about 2 months ago, you might not have even known there was an election. And what Melissa Hortman always said to us, she was a dear friend of mine, she used to always say to us is that these seats do not belong to us. Every single time you have to go out and earn the right to represent people. Until about 2 months ago, there was no campaigning. There was no reaching out to people. There was no conversations about the issues that are in front of our city. And in fact, there was actually pushback from City Hall as to what was really actually happening in our city. I'm so glad that this conversation now has forced the conversation around the issues around fentanyl, around the issues of needing more housing, around the issues of businesses not being able to operate here in our city. I am thrilled that that is happening now. And I've said this, and I've always said this, is that I've never had the political ambition to be the mayor of this city. But I would do a damn good job at it because I'm an operations person who understands how to run things. Because I spent an entire lifetime before I even got into politics. I'm probably one of the only people up here who's actually worked in every sector. And in not just an entry-level job, but in decision-making jobs, where I worked in the private sector. I understand markets and investments and finance. I understand what it means to work with your nonprofit partners because I worked in nonprofit. I understand what it means to work with your school district because I worked in the school district. I understand what it means to work in the private and public sector. I bring all of that experience with me to the city. And I just want to take a couple moments here to talk about the fact that we have to get credit where credit is due. And this is why the city has a hard time partnering with people, is because they don't give people the credit, because we don't solve these problems on our own. I want to first thank Councilmember Naker and also Councilmember Hwa-Jong Kim, who started working on the fentanyl issue a year ago already, when now this is a new thing that it seems some people are just talking about now. They have been working on that for over a year, bringing Suboxone over to make sure that our EMS services, that they have that. That I want to also thank the county, Ramsey County John Choi's office and Betty McCollum's office for the work that they've done around this issue. I want to thank the individuals, the businesses who've been working with me at the state level to try to build affordable housing and to try to build more housing in our city of St. Paul here. There are many, many, many people who saw the issues in front of us. They saw and they were already working on it. It has been 8 years, and we have let our city come to a place in which we need now new leadership in order to take care of it. So, sorry my time is up. I hope that you choose me to be your first choice because I know how to run things.
Thank you. Adam?
Hi. Closing remarks here. I think that I would be a better choice to run the city than anyone else up here because I care about city design first and foremost. I agree with a lot of policy decisions that a lot of the people up here are advocating for, but policy is mostly done at the city council, and I think that the mayor should focus on running the city better, and one of those major things is public works and making all of that run more efficiently and actually investing in the places that we need, not cutting $8 million out of our bike infrastructure spending, and actually making the effort to build a fully connected network. I know I talk about bikes all the time, but they truly are one of the best ways and cheapest ways of combating climate change, combating car violence. I also believe, as far as public safety goes, I didn't get to talk about it before, but speed cameras and red light cameras, they're proven to work. We don't need to do a pilot program. You need to put them on every single intersection. And I know that might not be popular with some people, but that's what you have to do, because then when you do that, then your police can actually be freed up to do other things other than traffic enforcement, which helps with the police, and then you can have all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just, the urban design is how you get people to move here, and we need to get people to move here because the businesses don't want to be here because there's not enough people, and I can't even get my friends to move here. And even revitalizing downtown, I hate that word now because it always just feels like we're going to give money to businesses to come back, and that's not the way to do things. We need to actually build the places that people want to be. And there's a lot of ways you can do that, and there's a lot of other cities that have done it well. I was just in Switzerland. It was freaking amazing. I wish we could have better transit, but that's also an issue that we can't control at the city level. I'd probably be interested in a city transit system, but that's Met Council's position right now. So,
Thank you. Yen?
Well, I want to thank my fellow candidates, the voters here tonight, and those watching at home, because you know in your heart, St. Paul is at an inflection point. I'm not a politician. You can tell by the fact that I even cannot remember a 2-minute speech. But after 3 years studying our city governance, walking the neighborhood, I know we need someone trained to solve complex problems efficiently and effectively to chart a new path forward. In his latest budget, Mayor cut a claim to fixing a problem from 30 years ago. In reality, he repeats the same mistake, spending tomorrow's tax dollar to cover today's challenges. Just as Highland Bridge, without addressing root causes or laying out a long-term plan for residents' financial future. For 3 years, I analyzed how our city works, sharing findings in writing and videos on my website. That knowledge prepared me to lead from day one. Together, we can expand home ownership, secure a fair and sustainable trash contract, and make St. Paul a true hub for entrepreneurs, small businesses, unlock pathway to prosperity. What makes St. Paul strong are its people, residents who care deeply and who 50 years ago pioneered a forward-thinking governing structure, a strong mayor, a strong city council, and the first district council in the nation. A strong mayor is not about holding power, but about the responsibility, guiding 3,000 employees to work smarter, set priorities, and move the city forward with purpose. Imagine a city where people are not afraid to go downtown, where paying your mortgage doesn't mean cringe at your tax bill, even you want to help your city, and where you can enjoy a night out in the best big little town in America. Change starts with you. Use your superpower. vote, donate, volunteer, and bring others into the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Melvin?
Thank you all for coming out here tonight, and I want to say again thank you to the League of Women Voters for always standing forward to host these types of forums and venues. It's really critical. Also, shout out to my dad, Melvin Carter Jr. Good to see you here today, Dad. Homicides are down, double digits. Violent crime in every category is down double digits. We're excited about that. We have over $1 billion in economic development projects underway right now, and probably more major investment signals in our downtown in the last 2 years than we've seen in the last 20 years. And we've doubled our pace to rebuild our city streets over the last couple of years. We've done all of that while actually increasing our city's credit rating to the highest ever, to the highest possible AAA stable. I'm very proud of the work that we are doing together as a community, and I know there's so much more that we can continue to do together. We can continue to build on the fentanyl work that we've started years ago with our Suboxone program, with our fire department, with our heart team, and with our CARES teams that we've built out at the city over the past several years. That's going to be critical to our city's success into the future. Making sure that we're addressing the issues of chemical health, and making sure that we're addressing the issues of homelessness and unsheltered residents in our community, and all of the types of issues that go along with those are going to be absolutely critical. Addressing the fentanyl crisis, continuing to build as much housing as we can across our city, and continuing to push on our momentum downtown are going to be three things that are going to be absolutely critical to the success of our city. We will not cut our way to success. We will not cut our way to prosperity. We have to push forward. There will be people this year who will tell you that our goal is to get back to where we were in the 90s, or back to where we were in the 2000s, or back to where we were in the 80s. The only way to get St. Paul back to any of that is to take St. Paul back. I want to take St. Paul forward. I want to keep us moving forward. I'm Melvin Carter. I'm the mayor of the city. I have been for 8 years, and I ask for your vote. I ask to be your first choice, and I ask that you continue to work with us so that we can all move our city forward together. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you for participating in the forum this evening. We believe the success of our city and democracy partly depends on the values, knowledge, and commitment of our elected officials. Candidate forums are a great way for the public to hear directly from the people asking for our vote. Running for office is hard. It's really hard to answer questions, especially of this magnitude, in 60 seconds. Let's give all the candidates a round of applause for their efforts. Election day for St. Paul Mayor is Tuesday, November 4th. Check out the Fair Vote Minnesota website for videos and instructions on ranked choice voting, and the League's Vote 411 or the Secretary of State's website to see what the ballot will look like. It's easy, and we don't want citizens to be surprised when you see your ballot. Please vote, and please urge your friends who couldn't attend tonight to watch the recording of this event on YouTube and learn about these candidates. Finally, many thanks to our 6 district council co-sponsors. Again, the Como Park Community Council, Dayton's Bluff Community Council, Greater Eastside Community Council, St. Anthony Park Community Council, Southeast Community Organization, and the Union Park District Council. These organizations, yeah, we can give them a round of applause. Why not? These organizations work hard to bring local issues to the communities they serve, from trash pickups to neighborhood festivals to regular informative emails. They will post a YouTube site link on their website shortly. We appreciate our volunteers, St. Paul Neighborhood Network, these candidates, and all of you in the Johnson High School audience and online. Remember to stop by the registration table to learn more about the League of Women Voters, and use vote411.org for help with this and future elections. Good night.